Welcome to the stage, Mr. Giancarlo Esposito!
Good morning! Wow!
Thank you, and so for people who know me, I do my best not to fangirl. Totally fangirling. Do you think in Villain, when you are in character, like, you know, if you're Italian, but you're speaking English, and you're thinking in Italian and converting, what is in your head when you play some of the most villainous characters that exist?
You're so funny I asked that question. I have an 18-year-old daughter, and she looks at me sometimes, she goes, I just want to know what you're thinking. I just want to know what's on that mind. What's in that brain of yours? You know, I have a way of dropping myself down through my yoga practice, and normally I think of just trying to listen to someone really closely, and when I'm in character, I try to judge every piece of them.
I felt it!
And so I allow that to happen only when I'm in character. And sometimes I think, I had a friend years ago, when I stepped out of line, he would say to me, I'll kill you. I'll kill you. And sometimes I just think, I will kill you. That's it. Period.
You're so effective at saying so much by saying so little, and that's a real gift. I mean, I watch your work on stage and and on the screen, and it blows my mind. Let's get to questions. You guys are already lined up. Hi, how are you? What's your name? Where are you from?
My name is Linda, and
hi, Linda.
I'm from Charlottesville, Virginia. And my question is, out of all of your characters that you've done, what is the most rewarding?
The most rewarding is the character that I'm working on now. And I say that because I love and can record physically and mentally what I do with different roles and what may be more fun or more intense. But I like to keep myself and remind myself to stay present. And so what I'm working on right now keeps me in the present, not in the memory of the past. And so I have to always say that as an actor, we have to learn a lot of material and be effective in our performance, but then we have to let it go. And we're looking forward to the next thing that's on our plate. And because I've been so busy, I have the next thing for me is to continue with Godfather of Harlem and return to the character, of Adam Clayton Powell Jr. For the next month and a half before I go on to my own show. So it's really what I'm doing right now. Now, for you all, you see stuff after it's made, like we've made The Boys a year ago, and that's just, come on. Right. So I could be Stan Edgar today for you. And also, for those who watch Better Call Saul, we just finished the first installment of our last and final season, the 6th season. So you see that now, but I'm already moved on to something else. So I love what I'm doing right now, and it's always exciting to me to stay present in the moment.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Great question, Linda. Hi, question over here. How are you?
Hi, I'm really short, so I'm trying to adjust this.
I feel you.
Yeah. So my name's Azara. I'm from Winchester, Virginia. Before I ask my question, I just want to say thank you. Breaking Bad was like one of the first experiences I had watching your performances, and it was something that my boyfriend showed me. And while you guys were making crystal meth and killing people, me and my boyfriend came closer together as a couple, and we've been together for 2 years. So I just want to say thank you for that.
You're very welcome.
So my question is a Breaking Bad question. It's something that's been on my mind since I watched the series. There was the season where Walter and Jesse finally joined you all, and there was that whole issue with that kid that was a part of your circle, and those two, sorry if there's spoilers, those two drug dealers basically, did what they did, and which then caused Walter and Jesse to retaliate and enact their own punishment on those people. I know Gus is a very cold and calculated person, but you also had that dichotomy that he still cared about things and that he still had emotions. So in that case, if Walter and Jesse would have just waited to attack those other two people, would you, as Gus, would you have actually enacted punishment for what they did to that child, or would have been something that you would have just let go?
Wow, it's really interesting. I love Breaking Bad fans. I love Better Call Saul's fans because you guys are so specific. What an imagination. So you're asking me what I think I would do if the circumstance were different, if things happened differently within the story that were written differently, what would Gus do?
Yeah, pretty much.
I would kill them all.
That's a great answer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
How do you find, but she did touch on something though, the layers of villainy, right? Someone who is on some sort of villainous spectrum, but also has the ability to care. In your character development, is it your classical training that's getting you there? How are you figuring out the layers of this so that you're not one-dimensional? Every one of your villainous characters are different and nuanced.
Well, I feel like we've seen the one-dimensional character. We've seen the stereotypical mobster with the little puppy dog who just kills everyone. We've seen that person who's out of control and really has a bloodlust, and that's all that matters. But what I like to discover and show is that the hero, and I say this a little bit about my character in Mandalorian, the anti-hero is what? Is a fallen hero. And so that hero, he had at one point wanted people to listen to him and they didn't. And so then he decided he had to do something to sort of show people that he had a better idea. This pertains to Gus as well. He can do it better. To answer the last girl's question, Gus would certainly more than likely enact some kind of punishment on those who took the life of a child, without a doubt, because that's the Gus I created with a moral compass. I like to create characters who care about people and who think they're doing something that is going to help folks, and also in tandem with furthering what they really want, what their intention is. However, that person is a real human being and not someone who just doesn't care. And so that's what makes the characters and the villainous characters that I play, or the anti-heroes who were once heroes that I play, more human. Because we all make mistakes. We all have an idea of what our egos really are that push us to places where we don't really feel like it's comfortable or it should be right. But yet we do it anyway, out of desire and want or retribution or jealousy or whatever those things are. And so to create a character that's truly human, you have to create someone who has some goodness inside them to begin with. And then take that and shift it and move it, that they're unable to hear their own faults and work through that in that way.
The idea that Moff Gideon somehow believes that he is going to create a better world through his actions is fascinating to me. Now I've got to go back and watch the whole thing over again. Hi, how are you?
Hi, good morning.
Good morning, what's your name?
Hi, I'm Carlene. I'm from Alexandria, Virginia. And I would like, first of all, to thank you for coming.
You're welcome.
And the second thing I would like to say is, by watching School Days, you've inspired my brother to go to an HBCU and me becoming a D9 Greek. So thank you for that.
Love it. Gamites! Divide!
My question is, how did you craft that character? Because he's a narcissist, and then you want to love him, but then you want to be with him. He's so multifaceted. Like, he's like one of my favorite characters in School Days.
Big Brother Almighty. I love that character. Spike wrote a very complicated piece that really is about light-skinned and dark-skinned blacks on the backdrop of an African-American college. There's many people to know what that experience was really like. For me, it was brand new. I went down and I met Zelmer Bothic, who was an Omega Sci-Fi head of a fraternity who was the only person on his line who went over. Of course, that film inspired a rite of passage for so many African Americans in the way that Spike depicted it, but it was an education for me. And it was really wonderful to wrap myself around someone like Julian, who thought in many ways that he was somehow better because of the lightness of his skin, but also was a very smart man who was in some ways a leader with a lot of ego, a lot of good looks, and someone who wanted to control what was going on around him and didn't quite have the understanding that everyone is to be respected no matter who or what color you are. But we're in a society within the Greek society on an African American culture that is a competitive one. And so let's not forget that Spike, in so many ways, is a coach. He's that wonderful basketball coach. He's a wonderful football coach. He's the guy that likes to see people compete to win. And that's a different idea than just meritocracy. That's the idea that, all of the good looks and all of the physicality and all that could allow you to win. But aren't we in a world that's the same way? And so I really enjoyed playing that character, to be able to touch upon all those different colors of who Julian is on screen in that particular movie.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Hi, how are you? Come on up.
My name is Michael. You've written great performances across tons of films, like Do the Right Thing, School Days, and shows like Breaking Bad, The Boys, The Mandalorian. And I want to know, of all the characters you've played, who are your top 3 favorite characters that you've played?
Oh, it's so interesting. I get asked that a lot, and and I hate to let people down with a non-answer, but I realize I realize I have to be as honest as possible. There are characters that I feel like I've had more to do than other characters, that I excelled at in a different way, that I dropped to a point where I connected on a soul level, in a deep and a deeper depth. Okay, so timing is everything. Our time in life, when the door opens, are we ready to walk through it? Our time in life when we feel like in the groove. Like, you ever have those days where you're like in the groove, like in the pocket, where you feel like nothing bothers you, everything can go wrong around you, but you are just in such a graceful place, like you're walking on water. That happens with actors when you meet a role that has all the elements that agree with you. And so that happened for me in Breaking Bad. It was just the time in my life where I could take time to breathe. I recognized there was great writing. I could take the time to not want to change that writing because I couldn't make it better, but how could I control the chaos? How could I control the pressure within me that wants to give you an answer? We're in a society where people are asked a question and we're expected to have an answer like that, without even thinking about it. And I attest that if you take the time, you hear that space? To let the space of the universe allow and afford you a moment to think and feel and put your answer together, you would be much more truthful, organically real, and honest than you ever have been before, because you're giving yourself that gift. Moff Gideon. I get the comparison between Moff and between Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. Moff Gideon, I'm like a kid. As intense, possibly, a little bit more strident as someone who wants to control the chaos. Not as calculated as Gus, but a whole hell of a lot more fun. So I love that, because one of the prerequisites for me when John said, I have a role for you, was just give me a cape, baby, and I'm done. So to answer your question honestly, and you mentioned one other, what was the other show you mentioned?
The Boys.
The Boys. Oh, another. So I always wanted to play a company man. Gus is his own man. Moff Gideon is his own galactic star who has to deal with a board of people and manipulate them to get them to do what he wants. Stan Edgar is the face behind Vought. So I hate company men, but I hate them because they're just like, they just do what, no, I'm very sorry, but your card will have to work. No, I'm sorry, we can't give you a refund. No, the company says, I hate that. I always want to question authority. But yeah, baby, but Stan Edgar is somehow more than that, because he's representing a company, but he is the company. He's the face of the company that you see. And he's faced with people who could just, like Homelander could just laser him. But somehow he has enough gravitas to not be afraid and to put him in his place and to tell him, look, don't be a child. Just do what I tell you to do. Go out and make your appearance. So he has a power of his own. So all three of those characters I really love. I can't just finger one that really works for me now, but in the moment of me playing each of them work for me like gangbusters.
Thank you for your question. Hi, how are you? What's your name?
Hi, my name is Connor from Leesburg, Virginia.
Hi, Connor.
Good morning, and why do you want baby Grogu so much?
I will squash that little big-eared bastard. So I have to create a space, and that's a great question. A lot of people ask me, where I feel like all of you matter more than what I want. And so I believe very simply that Moff, and I have to leave this for myself, it may not even be true, but as an actor you give yourself something real to play for a purpose and a reason. And I believe he wants Grogu, Baby Yoda, so that he can test that baby and be able to harness some of the power that child has. He wants to learn about it so he can share it, maybe just for himself, but maybe with the world, because this baby is special and he wants to study it and know how it got to be special.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You're welcome, you too.
You have a good day. Hi, come on up, a question.
Hi, I'm Maria from Los Angeles.
Hi.
And I'm Jay from Omaha, Nebraska. So we had a question. In addition to all the great work you've done, we really liked the work you did in a movie called The Show, where you were an actor and a director. And we just wanted to know if how your experience was as a director and an actor in a project, and if you look to do more directing.
Wow, I'm so happy you saw that film. It was very special to me. It was a 4-year labor of love to make it. It was titled This Is Your Death. And it was a film that was really an examination of our idea of entertainment. I was very inspired by a film many years ago called A Face in the Crowd, which I thought was a really wonderful movie about a person who was an everyman, a drunk, really, guitar player. Andy Griffith had the performance of his life in that movie, who went from there to being a star of television, to being the person, the oracle that America listened to and was inspired by eventually because of his homespun country kind of wisdom and charm. And it's all about the television industry. It's a powerful movie, This Is Your Death, but it's about people who have come to the end of their existence and take their life on national television for a reason, for money, for a prize. And it reminded me of maybe where we're going today in our world, where human life is not regarded in a valuable way. So the film itself, again, it was a 4 or 5 year labor of love, was a compilation of scenes, and I wanted a story behind it. Josh Duhamel came on for the ride, Famke Janssen, James Franco did a cameo for me, and I also had the starring role. It's about an everyman who's trying to make it and can't, and Mason is working at the studio and is failing in his life and everything else, and decides the only way for his family to survive would be for him to become a contestant on the show and win, so that they would get the $1 million and could live a beautiful life as he was gone. It's a very special film to me because I went bankrupt in Connecticut with my former wife and family, and was thinking that the best way for me to have them have a life, and I had already been acting for years, everyone went south, and I was at the bottom of the barrel and nothing was happening. And I thought, well, my former wife was in insurance, and I thought if I got someone to take me out, then they would get the policy and they'd be able to survive. It was a very, very depressed place in my life, and I wanted to speak to it because of the condition of where some people are in America today. We have the wonderful ability to come here and to be in wonder, enchantment, joy, excitement at a Comic-Con. Those of you who come in costumes, and those of you who don't, it doesn't matter. You come to meet not only your celebrities, but you also go to Artist Alley. You see people who are expressing themselves in every way that is what we're supposed to be doing in life. And even though it's a weekend getaway, it's probably one of the best weekend getaways you could ever have, to be in that joy and wonder of a child. Well, again, as we get older, we get a little bit jaded. We change our focus. We change our thought about who we are. I'm just a big kid. So This Is Your Death was a film that wanted to express the feelings of where do we go from here when you're at the end of your road. You know where we go? We lift each other up. We find ways to help each other. We find ways to not let someone fall through the cracks. And that takes a collective thinking on all of our parts that can change the world in which we live. It can change our America. Let's start with America first. This place we call America is a mess right now, and we need help. We need to figure out how to convince our elected officials to ban firearms and ban guns completely. It has to happen. Otherwise, we're losing our children, and they are our future. They are further along than we are to be able to extend this idea of compassion, understanding, and the idea that we can be a different society. And other governments in the world immediately have taken steps to do this, and we haven't. Now, I understand. There may be even people in the audience who understand as well the opposite side of it. There is a flip side. But right now, it's out of hand. And we have to try to find a way to bring people together to say we want to preserve our lives, because this issue is in the way of a bigger issue, as big an issue, which is the environment, right? If we don't do something now, we lose the world. So my film was the beginning of some statements I'd like to make as a director in a film. I love directing. I directed episode 606, Axe and Grind of Better Call Saul. I hope you all can watch that and enjoy it. But me, as an artist, just to finish, as an artist, I feel a responsibility to speak to large issues in our community, in our world, that would reflect some kind of hope that we can survive, but first we have to come together as a unit, as people, beyond race, color, creed, and origin, to be able to do things that will allow people to wake up. It's time to wake up, and the time is now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just need a minute to sit with that incredible answer. Question over here. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Hello, I'm Robert. I grew up in Maryland, and I'd be interested to hear about your experience working on another really good show, Homicide: Life on the Street.
Yeah, baby.
Particularly what it was like, what your relationship was like with your TV dad, Yaphet Kotto.
Oh my goodness, thank you for asking that question. I love Baltimore. I found it to be a real place with real people. They speak their own language there. You know, how you doing, hon? I really was excited to be there. It was a wonderful experience to work with Tom Fontana, who wrote it, and I really, really adored Yaphet Kotto. God rest his soul. What a wonderful actor, but a very regal and wonderful person. A man who really, so there's something about the self-esteem of us all, and me as an actor, I know I go in and out of feeling good about myself when I'm in front of the camera, and I like to say that I want people to feel like they have a contribution. Yaphet always walked in a regal way. He spoke in a regal way, with respect for all of his co-stars and everyone else. When he disagreed with something that may have been written, he went with utmost respect to the writers to say, maybe this could be this way, maybe it could be that way. And my mom used to always say, he reminded me of this, you get more with sugar than you do with salt. And so, yeah, I'm a reactor. I'm a major volcano holding it all down inside. When you finally see Gus get a chance to do something, he does something reprehensible in 401 Box Cutter because it's all been in there. He does it coolly and calmly, but he still lets it out. I don't want to be a reactor anymore. I want to be an uplifter. I want to bring people to their best selves, and Yaphet Kotto did that in every sense of the word. Made me feel comfortable, made me feel grounded, allowed me to know, because he always would say, and no one knows if it's true or not, that he was the son of royalty, that he was a king. We all are kings and queens, princes and princesses, and we should know and allow each other to feel, always look at each other and say what works first. As an acting teacher, I say what works. What works for me about who you are? What works for me about what you display about yourself? And then what could be cultivated further? Nice way of saying, suggestion from what I see, this could be cultivated a little bit more. So it's a loving, kind, and graceful way of lifting someone up. You would want me to be my best self. Every time I'm on television and you see me, wouldn't you want me to be my best self? Well, I want the same for you.
Great, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. I love it. Hi, question over here.
I'm also a little short.
We can hear you.
So first and foremost, I just want to say, and probably those in this room can agree with me, it's an absolute honor to even be in the same room as you, Giancarlo. First and foremost. And my question is, hey, I fell in love with you as an actor from the Once Upon a Time days. From Once Upon a Time to Breaking Bad, my favorite show ever on TV. But now as Moff Gideon in Mando, to be a part of the Mandalorian and the Star Wars franchise, how does that make you feel?
I feel like a kid again. I have to be really honest with you. I got a call from Favreau who said, I have good news and I have bad news. I said, what's the good news? He said, the good news is I wrote a role for you in Mandalorian. I said, what's that? He says, it's going to be the new Star Wars show. I said, okay, what's the bad news? All the money's going to go on the screen, so I have very little to pay you. I said, okay, so let's make a deal. I said, I want to work with you no matter what. The deal is, you write me a great role, which you've already done. All you got to do is give me a cape and I'm off and running.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's amazing. Hi, how are you?
Hi, Giancarlo. Chris, I'm from San Antonio. As a longtime Star Wars nerd, also as a longtime admirer of just your incredible work, when I saw you come on the screen as Moff Gideon for the first time, I just squealed with joy. It was just so awesome to see you on screen. That being said, prior to taking the role of Moff Gideon, were you a fan of the franchise? And also, what sort of media from the franchise did you maybe consume to prepare for the role?
I loved this franchise in the very beginning. I thought it was really something that was George's work in the early days was absolutely amazing. It allowed us to go to a planet far, far away and discover ourselves within the mirror of the characters that he presented. I had fallen in love with Carrie Fisher as Princess Leia. I had fallen in love with Luke Skywalker. There was a vulnerability and a heroic feeling that these two somehow could save the world from the darkness that was about to take it over. I followed the movies for a number of years until they became somewhat tentpole. And when I say tentpole, it means more Hollywood box office, trying to make a movie that would bring people in to create a large amount of box office. And then I started to lose it. I loved the mechanical characters that were so real, that were able to guide human beings. We're coming to that time in our period now, robots, R2-D2, all these different elements of mechanical beings who had some kind of wisdom. What I really missed was the idea that George had connected to the idea of the power of myth. These stories are mythological. And within that mythology, we're able to see, almost like Once Upon a Time, which were grim story tales. This story allowed us to be heroes through many characters depicted within it. And the power of myth was really talked about for the first time in a real clear way in America by Joseph Campbell. And George Lucas was a friend of Joseph Campbell's. So all this mythology really affected George. And it's the fodder of great storytelling, is that we can look at these stories and go, I can do that. I can be that. I can encompass and embody that kind of life if I choose that. Now, that can be your life and my life in smaller increments. So it lost me for a while, and when I started to read Mandalorian and became a part of it, it's changed my life. Because all of a sudden I'm reminded, all we need is for our best friends to go, hey, remember when you had this dream? I write down sometimes on my autographs, dream big, especially for those who come for an autograph for Once Upon a Time. Sidney always thought that one day he was going to be with the evil queen. He was going to be with her. He was going to get her. He loved her. She's going to turn good. It's all going to, maybe very hopeful. No, it wasn't going to happen. But, but yet, he still had that dream. So this particular show is important because you have the unlikely hero. You have Mandalorian, doesn't want to be with that kid. He's got to fulfill his earthly obligation. He's got to fulfill what he's been asked to do because he keeps his word. He's truthful to himself. And that then through the journey, he learns something from this little baby who he never thought could teach him anything. He just wants to get rid of this kid. But through the journey, he's protected, he's taken care of, and he is elevated. I love this particular show, I really do.
Thank you so much for being here with us.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you. Question over here.
Hello.
Hi there.
Hi, my name is Carlos, and I'm from Aberdeen, Maryland. My question for you is, throughout your entire career, did you ever feel the need for mentorship? And if you did, how did you go about gaining those relationships?
It's a great question. You know, sometimes we need help, and I sometimes am someone who is, it's difficult to ask for help. I started when I was 7 years old, and I had many mentors who came to me in a natural way. One of the first was a drummer named Babafumi Okunyan, who was from Africa and who played drums in our show. And some of the things that came out of his mouth were really ancient in many ways. I think of him, I don't know why today, he gave me a little kernel of wisdom. James Earl Jones was another really wonderful mentor to me, a guy who learned his script backwards and forwards and had all the emotion of it. And you go in his dressing room and he has a stack of books and newspapers. I'd be in my dressing room with just the script for the play. On his breaks in between shows, he's reading all this other prose. So it made me understand how prolific he was in regard to the amount of information he could take in. A wonderful performer. I knew his father before him. I ran the New York City Marathon with Robert Earl Jones, his dad, many, many years ago. So he was another mentor. Look, you can seek out a mentor, and you probably should. Good advice is hard to come by with someone who really cares about you. I had an 8th grade school teacher who for many years was a mentor of mine, and said things that helped me and things that also didn't help me, that allowed me to think realistically. I went bankrupt. I went to her to borrow money. She said, I'll give it to you. She said, oh my gosh, you should have never had 4 kids. And I went, excuse me? She said, I feel so sorry for you. You're never going to recover. You're a couple of $1 million in debt. And I was shocked because she was my teacher and I regarded her as a mentor. But even that taught me something. And I said to her, I'm in the one business that I can recover. Somehow I can recover. I'm not looking to be a star. I'm looking to be a journeyman actor. I know I can recover. Shirley Rich, casting director. It's the last example I give you. I went up for a film called Taps, and she said to me, she looked at me and shook her head and said, Giancarlo, you really have to learn how to act. I was crushed. What? I was crushed. And she said, well, let me qualify that. You need to learn how to act for the screen. You've been on stage. You know, everything's hitting the last row.
Big, yeah.
Right? You're too big. You have to bring it down. It was for a movie called Taps. Mm-hmm. George C. Scott, Timothy Hutton.
Yeah.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah.
And I didn't get it. And I walked out and I was crushed. She said, I suggest you go do some plays. I left. I went and did a play at the Negro Ensemble Company, which I won the Obie Award for. Woo! Straight drama. I left and I went down to Henry Street Settlement and did 2 more dramas. A year later, I get a call. Shirley Rich wants to see you for this movie called Taps. I said, this is a deja vu. I said, that movie was already done. They said, no, they postponed it. It wasn't done. They want to see you again. I went in and read for Shirley. She looked at me and she went, what did you do? I said, I did what you told me to do. See, you can't lead unless you can follow. You can't lead unless you can follow orders. You can't lead unless you can take someone's advice to heart and then do it. A young man walked up to me on the street last night. I was walking home from dinner to the hotel. Can you give me some advice on how to get into acting? I said, get into an acting class. Read everything. Study, study, study. Well, what about connections? Yeah, right, yeah, what about connections? He was young, and in our world today, it's LinkedIn, it's connections, it's social media, it's the internet. Well, what about talent? I said to him, what about talent? Don't you want to know if you have any talent or if you really love it? Everyone thinks it's a cakewalk and it's fun, or not everyone, but many people. But I believe that it only happens and you can only stay at the top of your game if you keep investing in you. See, your investment is in you. Your investment is in cultivating the idea that you could be excited about something. I don't care if you're acting, in computer science, or anything else. Your investment 10 minutes a day determines your tomorrow. If you invest in that 10 minutes, that means you're really committed. If you don't want it bad enough and you ain't gonna get it.
Yes.
Thank you.
Woo! Thank you. We need the Giancarlo motivational tour. I would pay a lot of money for that. Question over here as we're getting ready to wind down.
Sure. So I was wondering, it's more of a proposition than a question or a pitch, maybe. I was wondering, I watched Revolution. I don't know if anybody else did. But
love that show.
I was a little disappointed that we didn't get Gus Fring, Wasteland Warlord. So I
would have loved that.
Yes, could we get that show instead?
Oh my gosh, you never know. You know, I'm on the set with Vince, and Vince looks at me, and everything is coming to an end, and they had a little bit more to do. Pickups and all that, and he said, look, I didn't even ask him a question, but he looked over at me, he said, it's not over till it's over. So you never know. I've talked a lot about the idea that what would be wonderful would be a show called The Rise of Gus. It'd be interesting to see where he came from and his roots in Chile and all that. Who knows? Anything could happen. Now there's all this blending of Gustavo and Moff Gideon and Tom Neville. I love Tom Neville. Tom Neville, to me, was the ultimate shapeshifter. He was trying to save his family. He was trying to be an upstanding man. Right now, I'm really into playing everyman. And I'm doing it in the role that I start shooting in August for AMC called The Driver. And I'll play a guy who's like just a regular dude who drives a cab and he can't take care of his family. He's trying to get from point A to point B and care for other people. That was me 10 years ago when I went bankrupt. I want to tell that story, and that'll be interesting. Then I'll return to some villains and some powerful guys who take control of the chaos. Promise.
And given how close that is, thank you for the question, given how close that is to your heart and your personal story, I can't wait to see what you bring to the screen with that. Question over here.
Good morning, Giancarlo. My name is Joshua from Charlottesville. My family and I, we love the whole Breaking Bad universe. You're totally awesome. And my question is, I don't know if you heard about this, but a number of MCU fans wrote Kevin Feige and petitioned him to offer you the role of Doctor Doom in a future Fantastic Four movie. Would you ever be interested in taking something like that?
It's been coming up all weekend. And there is fan casting is real. And yes, I would. I gotta say, I 3 times yesterday I hesitated, but today I'm writing an email to my management team, Josh Kesselman. Kevin Feige, is that who I gotta reach out to?
That's the man.
Kevin Feige. Okay, I'll have to remember his name. I'm gonna write an email and say, Josh, I think it's time we pursue this. So yeah.
I love it. Great question.
Come by my table and speak to me, all right?
Thank you.
Yeah, man. Come by and say hi so I can get all the names right.
Giancarlo, let me give you the final question. What do you hope your legacy will be?
Wow. I love what I do. And I'm hoping that my legacy will be that I've lived a full life and I've worked diligently to cultivate my talent and craft, to be an example for others that the world can be better, and to uplift them and lift them to new heights in championing them. We have to be the champion of ourselves, but I want to champion all of you for all the good work you do on you, so that you're able to lift other people up in a new, original, and beautiful way. I used to think I just wanted to be regarded as this star, great, wonderful actor, but I realized there's no separation between my life and what I do. And if I really exemplify who I really am, then I would know in my heart the words I often say, is that you're not who you think you are. You have the ability to soar. You have the ability to be all that you ever wanted to be. Intention is everything in guiding you and bringing you to the voice that is originally who you are inside. And that gift has a lot to offer people. So in my legacy, I'm hoping that they would look and see that I lived a life, especially the second half of my life, that was more to be in service, that was more about the I, more about the we and the us than the I and the me. So think about it. To be about the we and the us is to be in service, to uplifting, being a partner, being a compassionate partner in our community, our society, and our world. But we're told that I want this, and that I can do this, and that it's all about me, from advertising to making money to being in a queue that you want to get in front of somebody for. And I tell you, as you start to mature in your lives and you start to understand that we are all in this together, and there's nothing else that means anything or that matters. And so I hope that in the end, my legacy will be that I have been a connector, an uplifter, and someone who believes in you, and someone who believes in me, and someone who believes that we can change the world.
Let's stand up and give it up for Mr. Giancarlo Esposito. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Michael Shanks, and you're watching Fandom Spotlight. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. The fate of the universe may depend on it. And have fun and follow your fandom.